Hello and welcome to English Language Magazine. My name is Khalil Gay, and my guest today is Alioune Badara Cissé, attorney at law. Good morning, Mr. Cisse.
Good morning, Khalil.
And thank you for having accepted our invitation.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. 11 years ago, the Hutus and the Tutsis of Burundi signed an agreement called the National Unity Charter. The sense of the charter is the Hutu-Tutsi parity. Today, the Burundians are aware that national unity can be reached, even though they are different.
This month, Burundi is celebrating the 11th anniversary of the National Unity Charter that was signed between the Hutus and the Tutsis in 1991. Though the agreement had hardly been able to stop the bloodshed between the two communities during the decade, the celebrations are in fact a tribute to the institutions of transition following the Arusha Accords concerning peace and reconciliation in Burundi. The signatories of the Accords appear in agreement on the issue of equitably sharing the top posts. The government and the two houses of the parliament are fairly representatives of the regions and the ethnic groups. While President Pierre Buyoya himself is a Tutsi, Vice President Domitien Ndeye Iye is a Hutu. While the National Assembly Speaker is a Hutu, his second-in-command is a Tutsi. A similar Hutu-Tutsi parity is also in force among the top officials in the Burundian Senate. It proves, most of all, that the Burundians have now started to understand that national unity can be reached even if they belong to different and opposing political currents. It also proves that the Burundians are now beginning to grasp the significance of a peace accord after so many bloody conflicts. Though the leaders have taken full advantage of the situation and have solved their own financial problems, it is about time that the people, impoverished after 8 years of war, should also expect to benefit from the pact.
All right, Mr. Cisse, what do you think of the report we just saw?
That's a wonderful news coming over that finally peace is coming back into Burundi and hopefully into Rwanda. But if you look into it very carefully, Khalil, the distinction between Hutu and Tutsi is very sophisticated because it is not grounded on differences, really. Same people, same language, same culture.
Right.
But the colonial people just came over and said, these people are taller, they have a lighter skin, they look smarter, they are more involved into economics, they play more the role of white people, then they should be closer to us. They gave them a name. The other people, kind of Bushman people, they have another name. And we African people are letting this survive. It is very shameful. In 1992, I worked with the Minnesota advocates, international advocates, and they had a program to bring people back into the United States from the bloodshed in Burundi. Very, very shameful.
Very shameful. We'll get back to you later. Mr. Cisse, Nigerian statues found after excavations in Nigeria and found illegally existing at the Louvre in Paris. The Quai d'Orsay in Paris, which says it's really uncomfortable with the new changes happening in the electoral procedure in Togo, and also constitutional changes in Tunisia, introduced by Mr. Ben Ali. And we start with Madagascar's opposition leader, Marc Reveleman, who says he's ready for a second round of elections, this following his meeting with incumbent Didier Ratsiraka.
Marc Ravalomanan is ready for a second round of voting if necessary in Madagascar, according to an interview published in the newspaper La Croix. The opposition leader is preparing his backers for a second round, for which they're very enthusiastic. The mayor of Antananarivo has called for using transparent ballot boxes and rescheduling the second round. His meeting with incumbent Ratsiraka produced compromises on both sides. In Tunisia, President Ben Ali has announced a referendum on constitutional changes. They will allow him to stand for a fourth term in office. He wants no more limits on the number of terms, but an age limit of 70. Ben Ali is 65, so will be able to run again. The opposition says Ben Ali is suiting himself. The changes also include a second house in Parliament and re-establishing a second round of voting. France says it is uncomfortable with the changes in electoral procedure in Togo. The Quai d'Orsay says it will endanger the inter-Congolese talks. France is calling on all parties to recommence the dialogue that it has been encouraging for the past 3 years. The changes in the electoral code were adopted by the parliament in Togo, which supports the president. They call for residence requirements for all candidates, which could eliminate opposition leaders who have been forced to flee the country. The 3 Nok and Sokutu sculptures on view at the Louvre in Paris are to become the property of Nigeria once again, but will remain in Paris. The accord ends 3 years of negotiations. The statues were found in Nigeria during mining excavations 10 years ago and were brought to France illegally. They were then properly acquired by a museum in Paris. Nigeria now owns the statues but is lending them to France for a renewable 25-year period.
African pieces of art illegally at the Louvre in Paris. What do you think of that as a lawyer?
Amazing, Khalil. God only knows how much and how many pieces of art are turned into the loose and would never be recaptured into our own artistic capital. Yes. But well, business is what it is. Right. They have been discovered and then probably rented out to the Louvre Museum for so many years.
For 25 years.
25 years.
25 more years, but legally this time. All right, Mr. Cisse, you studied in Toulouse in France, and from France you came back to Senegal to do your master's degree in law.
That's true.
And what happened when you came to Senegal? How long did you stay in Senegal?
I came to Senegal back in 1986, and I wanted to take the bar. Yeah. As I was trying to prepare for it, and I knew that I had a French degree, I was first involved in economics and social sciences and languages. Then I had to go back to the university and take over a master's degree in law, which was great because there I met my wife, with whom now we have 4 beautiful children. Good. Right. And then the year after, I took the bar, passed it, took the oath of office, did my 3-year training period, and then I said the call of discovering more was ringing in my head. Then I took over and went to the United States for 10 more years.
In 92?
In 1992.
10 years in the USA. And then you worked with very well-known lawyers in New York, was it?
They're in Minnesota.
Minnesota?
They're in Minnesota.
Which is called?
Maslin, Borman, Edelman, and Bryant.
And Bryant. Always involved in protecting minorities' rights.
Absolutely.
And you, as a lawyer from Africa and English-speaking and knowing the mechanism of American law, you were just fitting in there.
They kind of find a very funny mix right at the beginning during my first trip in the United States with the Hubert Humphrey Fellowship Program. So I spent a whole year with them. Okay. And when I came back, they say, Alioune, why don't you take over a Juris Doctorate degree and just become an American lawyer like any one of us? Then I say, well, but it's going to be very expensive. They say, well, there's a price to pay for everything. Yes. With the complicity of the former head of the Senegalese Bar Association, my friend Alioune Badara Cissé, and then Abdoulaye Wade, who is now the president, and Youssou Ndiaye, who is now the head of the Constitutional Court, I was recommended to go back, and then I took over the course, which was a 4-year course, which I did in 2 years, and graduated as a Juris Doctor.
All right. So we get back to you. You're watching English Language Magazine, and this show is brought to you from our studios in Dakar. I must just say that Alioune just took over, and we're going on with him, and he's still cited by Khadija Topoi. And India was qualified as an aggressor at the White House stage by General Pervez Musharraf, the Pakistani leader. Musharraf's courage and commitment in the fight against terrorism was praised by George W. Bush.
President George W. Bush on Wednesday extended a warm personal welcome to Pakistan's military leader, General Pervez Musharraf, praising his courage and calling him his friend. Musharraf took advantage of the White House stage to qualify India as an aggressor and asked New Delhi to withdraw its nearly 1 million troops from their common border. India has deployed its army following a terrorist attack on the parliament in New Delhi in December. Washington announced it was granting Pakistan an aid package worth more than $1 billion, 600 million of which have already been delivered.
Pakistan's continuing support of Operation Enduring Freedom has been critical to our success so far in toppling the Taliban and routing out the al-Qaeda network. Yet President Musharraf has made an even broader commitment.
We welcome the constructive role played by President Bush and Secretary Powell in urging restraint and diffusing military tensions. I am committed to a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir dispute in accordance with the wishes of the Kashmiri people. All other differences existing between Pakistan and India should also be settled through peaceful means.
While Musharraf was telling President Bush he was reasonably sure that the American journalist Daniel Pearl, kidnapped 3 weeks ago by Islamic militants in Karachi, was still alive, a British-born Islamic militant, Sheikh Umar, was telling a Pakistani court that Daniel Pearl was dead. He also admitted responsibility for Pearl's kidnapping. Umar, who could face the death penalty if his role in the kidnapping is proved, was arrested on Tuesday. But in Washington, Musharraf appeared optimistic about Pearl's fate.
You're watching English Language Magazine from Dakar, Senegal. Mr. Cisse, you passed a doctorate in the USA.
Yes, I did.
And the difference, tell us about the difference between doctorate in law in the USA and in Senegal?
Okay. A doctorate in law in Senegal, you have to go through probably a 7-year course right after high school. Mm-hmm. In the United States, you have to have a master's degree in another area, which is not law, mm-hmm. and then come to law school and spend probably a 4-year course.
All right.
It is a choice that you do have. After a couple of years, you just leave law school or stay in and go through the JD, which is the Juris Doctorate degree, which is the course that I undertook.
And in the States, if you're in the U.S. today, you would be able to teach in any U.S. university.
Absolutely, because I graduated in a higher rank, mm-hmm. and I had a high score in my TOEFL.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Yeah. I was pretty much targeted early in my career to be eligible as a law professor, and I took up my promises throughout my courses, and now I am entitled to be teaching law, particularly corporate law, international, private law, in every law school in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And which is the case in Senegal. You cannot teach in Senegal.
Amazing.
This is funny.
Senegalese lawyers don't have the right to teach. And this we need to solve. We need to call upon the president mm-hmm. to help us be able, we practitioners of law, being able to be teaching law.
Teaching law. Because you are practitioners and you know exactly what to tell the students about practical subjects.
Khalil, it is so obvious that I die in my soul every day, knowing that all the things that I know, I cannot transmit to students.
Yes.
What a waste.
Yeah, but maybe with a chance, people will give it an eye, and maybe it will change very soon.
We'll keep our fingers crossed and pray for it.
At 10 Albursaro.
True.
10 Albursaro, which is called Cisse and Hali and Cisse. So, do you make a comparison between 10 Albursaro and 10 Downing Street?
Well, premonition.
Premonition. You know it.
I have tickled with politics in my younger years, mm-hmm. and I don't think that I will give up. I believe that we now have the leadership that is putting things forward for all of us to be one day, in a way or another, a practical leader for this country.
Definitely.
So whatever the title is going to be, Prime Minister, President, whatever the title is going to be, we are studying because we have the culture, we have the education, we have the patriotism, and we have the vision, and that is important.
It was really a pleasure having you here, a lawyer, a Senegalese lawyer, with a great command of the English language. So what do you think of the language, English language in Senegal and its future?
I believe that the future is to English and new technology of information and communication. Right. There's very little one can do these days if you don't get it into English.
Right, definitely.
And the president is a living example of someone who is very knowledgeable in English, yes. and who is winning a broader audience because he can communicate just like this with anybody throughout the whole world.
No translation.
Amazing.
Definitely.
For a man of his age.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cisse.
Thank you, Khalil, and congratulations on your show.
Thank you very much. My guest was Alioune Badara Cissé, attorney at law, 10 Albersaro in Dakar. This is Khalil Gay, and you just watched English language magazine from Radio Television Sénégalaise in Dakar, Senegal. Have a nice weekend and see you next week.